Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Root Cause Solutions for You. My name is Fabiola, and I am your host. And today we have a very special guest. He is a quantum practitioner, and I am super excited about the information that he is here to share with us. His name is Keith, and he and his family own Quantum Energy Wellness in Houma, Louisiana, a leader with a global distribution company marketing breakthroughs in nutritional supplementation, specifically glutathione. And many of the things that Keith is going to share with us today is what glutathione is. Over the last few years, there's a lot of more practitioners, more people talking about glutathione, the need for the supplementation of it, and most importantly, delivery method, right? You take it as a capsule, you do a patch, you do IV. So I'm super excited that Keith is here to share with us some of that information. So Keith, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm going to have you introduce yourself and then we'll get started.
Absolutely, Fabiola. Thanks for having me. My name is Keith Chasson. I've been back in 2005. I can't tell you what led me to this industry. But before I do that, I've been married to my high school sweetheart since 1982. And we have a couple of children. They're adults now, and they've multiplied or expanded. We have 5 grandchildren. And over the years, I've had a passion for health and wellness, not specifically the allopathic world of medical practice, but more of a natural, holistic, organic type thing. And that passion really grew in 2004 and 5. My mom was really sick, diagnosed with esophageal cancer. And it was the day that I walked into her hospital room after they put her through a horrific surgery. They cut her from ear to ear this way, and it was the worst thing to that point in my life that I'd ever seen. It was horrible to see what they had done to her. And it was all for naught. She never recovered really, and she wound up succumbing and passing in 2007. But it led me on a journey to discover things about the innate immune system of humans. And through that research, I learned a lot about this amazing miracle molecule. In fact, Dr. Oz says that it's a molecule that you probably never even heard of called glutathione. It's the one molecule that protects us all from the diseases that we fear the most. When you think about the things that we go on to experience throughout life, things that they call the diseases of aging, you know what they are if you've been around for a while. These are the things that Dr. Oz says that glutathione protects us from the diseases that we fear the most. So it's pretty important molecule.
Wow, that sounds very powerful. And you're right. We hear these scientific words, right? Glutathione and electrotransport chain and mitochondria and all those different things. But if you were to explain it to someone who never heard of glutathione or has heard it before but has no idea what it is, how would you put that into simple words? Most
people say gluta what? Glutathione is a tripeptide, meaning it's made up of 3 amino acids: glycine, cysteine, and glutamic acid, with cysteine being what's called the rate limiting protein in that spectrum. And it's very important in over 400 different functions in the body. Glutathione is responsible for almost 15 critical functions in the body. In fact, the most critical that most people don't even think about because we do it innately on a daily basis, that's breathing, right? When hemoglobin is first manufactured in our body, it's not the correct chemical polarity that it needs to be in order to bind to oxygen molecules for proper oxygen transfer. It's got to be reduced to what's called +2. And the sole reduction agent, the only thing that can reduce hemoglobin to that +2 is glutathione. So what I see a lot of people when they begin to use the right delivery method of supplementation, they begin to experience better breathing. They're breathing better, which gives them a lot more stamina and endurance. So it's one of the critical things is oxygen transfer. If you don't have glutathione levels proper, you might not be breathing good, and that's not good for sustaining life, right?
That's very interesting. And yeah, how many cells and functions depend on the proper carrying of that oxygen, right? Like you were saying, what would be some of the symptoms you could say this person, if they are experiencing these different things, it could indicate or could suggest a glutathione deficiency?
Glutathione itself is very important in free radical mitigation. It's known as the mother or the master antioxidant. I call it the mother of all antioxidants. And just a quick for folks who aren't sure what an antioxidant is, it's a molecule that has what's called a donor electron. It's got an extra electron that it donates to these free radicals. When I first heard the term free radical, Fabiola, I thought of immediately someone from the 1960s, right? They were pretty free and pretty radical. But this is actually referring to a molecule that's been damaged due to oxidative stress. It's missing an electron. And so it becomes a scavenger. It's looking for balance. It's trying to stabilize itself. And by doing so, it attacks healthy cells and molecules, scavenging the electrons and creating more free radicals. And so glutathione, being the mother of all antioxidants, it donates an electron to stabilize that free radical so it doesn't continue damaging otherwise healthy cells. Now, there's all kinds of antioxidants out there. There's vitamin E, vitamin A, vitamin C, something called superoxide dismutase, catalase. These are all antioxidants, but they're all what's called monofocused antioxidants. Each one can take out one specific free radical, where glutathione can take out any free radical. I say take it out, I mean neutralize it. So it's very important in mitigating free radical damage. And by doing so, it reduces inflammation throughout the body. And inflammation is pretty bad. If it's left unchecked, it can lead to a lot of things: cardiovascular disease, neurological issues, you name it. It can lead to it. Now, these antioxidants, if these free radicals, if you don't neutralize those, these are things that left unchecked over time, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, you're taking a shower and you're feeling something that's not normal, right? And you go to get it checked out, you get the phone call that you don't necessarily want. That's because you got a huge problem now. So it's very important to neutralize and stabilize those free radicals throughout our body. And glutathione is the mother of all antioxidants. It's even deeper than that. Remember I said 400 functions? We're just going to cover a few of them because we're only going to be here for a little while. It took us a long time to cover all 400. But heavy metal environmental detoxification, you name me one person that's not eating, breathing, and drinking, that right there, the mere fact of life and existence causes free radical damage from all these heavy metal environmental chemicals and toxins that we experience on a daily basis. You can't get away from it. And in order to help neutralize those effects, we got to make sure our glutathione levels are up. I'm not just talking about blood serum levels of glutathione. That's not what makes the difference. It's what actually gets into the cell. That's why the delivery method is going to be important that we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah. Wow, that's so neat because people who are focusing on improving mitochondria function, right? How important glutathione is to make sure that the hard work that they're doing to improve the mitochondria function actually takes place, because without mitochondria, right, a lot of things wouldn't happen. They're there to guide our immune system, pretty much to guide our whole system, creating energy, and really think of them as like soldiers within our system, and the independence of mitochondria. And so how important glutathione is. And thank you for shedding light on that, because yeah, free radicals, you're right, we are exposed to how many chemicals a day. I was just talking to another client the other day, and they were like, is eating organic really that important? Does it really make a huge difference? And I'm like, of course it does. But even when you are exposed to a really good diet, you're still exposed to other chemicals, right? Like you walk outside and then you're exposed to something. I work with clients with all kinds of unwanted health conditions. But one of the things that I personally have a lot of affinity for is helping clients who are sensitive to mold and mycotoxins. And one of the things that has become really evident is how much free radicals, how much oxidative stress is created due to the toxicity of mold. And I'm sure glutathione, if I have this correct, glutathione is key for people who are experiencing mold toxicity. Is that correct?
You actually have that correct. Back to the mitochondria, one of the functions, glutathione is the sole protector of our mitochondrial DNA. what gives us trouble in the DNA level is the chemical load in the cell. And as a result of the heavy chemical loads, which is air we breathe, water we drink, food we eat, right? The detergents that most people are accustomed to using in their home, all these things, we need to reduce that chemical load, and that's why glutathione is so important. So it is the default protector of mitochondrial DNA. And Dr. Gordon Crozier, I don't know if you heard of him, he actually has this practice in Lake Mary, Florida, right next to Dr. Lisa Palmer's office. He wrote this book, Healing One Cell at a Time, and in here he specifically talks about how glutathione is the only thing that can remove mycotoxin poison from the cell. You're right, highly important.
Yeah. Now, Keith, do we produce glutathione ourselves? Like I wanted to ask you that.
We do in abundance until we reach our early 20s. Once we hit our early 20s, it begins to decline. I have a theory about that, but the history has proven that what we produce at a cellular level declines about 10 to 15% every decade. Fabiola, I'm 61 this year, so my body's producing about half of what it used to produce when I was in my early 20s. So as a result, there is a super need to supplement it, not to mention the fact that we're constantly exposed daily. There's a bigger reason now today in this society why we have such a more powerful need to supplement than our parents and our parents, because they were never exposed to something called electromagnetic frequencies. There's a little hole in our cells. It's called a voltage gated calcium ion channel. And this channel is designed to allow calcium into the cell to maintain a balance of calcium in the cell. Now, if that was to stay open for an extended period of time, that can become damaging. It would let more calcium in, which would create free radicals. But the biggest thing that it could let in and does let in when it gets flipped is something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is good for us. In fact, it won a Nobel Prize back in 1998 for all the good things that it does, right? But it needs to stay in the bloodstream, in the blood serum, not in the cell. But if this channel gets flipped open for an extended period of time, it allows nitric oxide to get in, and that creates the most damaging free radical known to man. It's a reactive nitrogen species called peroxynitrite. That dude it lives 1 billion times longer than any oxygen-based free radical, the ROSs, right? And because it lives so long, it can actually move from cell to cell. So it makes it even more damaging. There's two things that will cause it to flip open this channel. One is a punch to the head or a hit to the head, boxers or people in sports that get these concussions. That can cause this channel to flip open for an extended period of time. And the other thing is our exposure to electromagnetic frequencies, like coming from the 5G towers, the Wi-Fi networks, all the things that are emitting these EMFs. That can cause it to flip open for an extended period of time. And remember I mentioned all the antioxidants, the different types, vitamin A, E, SOD. There's only one antioxidant that can neutralize that damaging free radical. And guess which one that is?
Glutathione?
Good guess. Glutathione is the only one that can. So there's even more of a big reason why we need to supplement with some form of intracellular glutathione in order to protect us from those damaging free radicals caused by EMF exposure. And I don't care if you're hardwired, that makes no difference. These 5G, the frequencies emitted by these 5G towers, unless you got a Faraday shield on the top of your house, then you won't get the information. But unless you got that, the 5G is getting into your home. You can't stop it. So you're being exposed.
Yeah, gosh, we had to switch our internet last week, and I was looking for the new network, and I was shocked as to how many networks were reaching my device. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's like the person, you could be 2 blocks away and you could be getting my signal and I'm getting someone else's signal. So if from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of stressors that are impacting our cellular function. And when the cells are damaged, how can we expect them to build healthy tissues, to then build healthy organs, to then build healthy systems, and obviously a healthy body? And you're right, now that more than ever, we are far more exposed to so many different stressors that are creating that cellular damage. No wonder why people are trying to eat healthy and they're not getting the nutrients and still testing deficient for B12 through a blood test, or vitamin D, right? Or some of the metabolic markers are still not to where we need them to be because of that continual cellular stress. And I think there's only so much our cells can take. And like you said, if we don't take care of this right now, proactively, we're not being preventive, then 5-10 years from now, we could be facing a situation where out of the blue, now we are in a hot mess type of situation with
Yeah.
a diagnosis that we're like, now what? Now, so we produce glutathione, but obviously not enough to be able to offset all the free radical damage, all the oxidative stress that is being created because of all this toxicities. And so tell us about supplementation, because like I said, pill comes form, IV, patches. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's a plethora of supplements out there. You can go to Walgreens, Walmart, or whatever, and you can go look on the shelf, and it's just loaded with different capsules, pills, powders. Dr. Jimmy Gutman, if you haven't heard of him yet, he's one of the world's foremost experts on glutathione itself. This is his comprehensive guide. I've read it like several times, and he talks about the differences between the different ways of upregulating or upping our intracellular glutathione. You can do it through food. Whey proteins are really good for helping our body create more glutathione. That becomes an issue for folks that might have some type of dairy issues that they need to address, which is all good. In our gut, we have an enzyme called GGT, stands for gamma glutamyl
Mhm.
transferase. And that enzyme destroys glutathione that's taken orally. Even the precursors, like L-cysteine, right? Uh,
Mhm.
Even that, you take that orally, it gets broken in the gut, and there's not much of a benefit. If you get anywhere 8 to 10% benefit from anything you take in orally, you're very fortunate, because not only does it get destroyed by that enzyme, but now it's got to continue on through the rest of it. It's got to go through the small intestines into the bloodstream, and if it's not intact, the cell can't use it, right?
Yeah.
And so pills and powders and capsules, this is something I learned back in 2005 when I did all my research, that very inefficient, very ineffective. And to me, it was just a waste of my money. And so I started to look at IV, intravenous glutathione, more effective. People were getting better results. The biggest problem I saw with the IV was my parents couldn't afford it. Glutathione has a 90-minute half-life. If you're not sure, I'm sure you're sure, but maybe your listeners might not be, but half-life is how long after initial supplementation is the nutrients, how long are they good for? And they begin to reduce their potency, effectiveness 50% every interval of their half-life. For instance, glutathione is 90 minutes. You first take the supplement, it's 100% effective. 90 minutes later, it's 50%, it's half effective as it was when you first took it. 90
Mhm.
minutes later, it's half of that. 90 minutes later, it's half of that. And then that cycle continues. So with an IV, you get like a 6 hour bang for the buck, but then it begins to tail off. So about 24 hours later, you no longer get any benefit from an IV session in glutathione. Now, that's a problem cost wise,
Yeah.
because back then it was about $150 to do an IV session. Today it's anywhere between a couple $100 to the west coast of the United States, where it's about $800 for an IV session.
Oh my
So they're
God.
not cheap. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another problem with IV is particle size is too large. See, most of our
Mhm.
cells are anywhere between 75 to 100 nanometers in size, and glutathione intravenously injected into the bloodstream is about 75 to 100 nanometers in size. So the cell cannot upregulate it. It's got to be broken down. The blood breaks it down into its three component parts: the cysteine, glycine, glutamic acid. It'll break it down, and then it gets into the cell where the cell reagglomerates
Mhm.
it. Then it can be used intracellularly. So that all plays into that half-life. So the longer it takes to get into the cell, the less effective it is. More
Mm-hmm.
effective than powders and capsules, but it's still not as efficient as it could be. And Fabiola, I can remember back then praying that if somebody would just figure out a way to get supplemental glutathione into the cell, but by bypassing the gut, I really felt then that they could change the wellness of humanity on a global scale. That's what I ran into when I found this technology called Hydrostat nanotechnology. Now, when I say nano, I'm not talking about nanobots. I'm not talking about all these small robots that are in the nanometer size. I'm talking about strictly particle size. And here's why this is different than another delivery method called liposomal. You're familiar with liposomes, right?
Yep.
Most liposomes they're fats, right? They're lipids, fats. And most of them are made from seed oils. And we know how inflammatory seed oils can be. And you run the risk of them going rancid. And that method, plus when you wrap the particles of glutathione in a fat, in a lipid, it increases the size of the particles, so it makes it even more difficult for the cell to upregulate it. And our cells don't want fat. What is it going to do with extra fat? But store it. And so that's what makes this new technology of hydrostat so important. They figured out a way with a reactor to bend the hydrogen molecule, the hydrogen part of the water molecule, to bend it so it creates an envelope where the glutathione, cysteine is in this particular supplementation, curcumin, vitamin C, all nanosized to way less than 10 nanometers in size. They encapsulate it in this water molecule by bending the hydrogen bond. And then once they do that, it creates that envelope. And so when you put it in your mouth, you swish it like a mouthwash. Within 30 seconds, it's through the mucosal lining of your cheeks and gums. You know, a little venous cavity under your tongue? It's right into your bloodstream and into the cell within 70 seconds in its whole form without having to be broken apart and reagglomerated into the cell. And so it's been proven pretty effective. As a matter of fact, I know a surgeon in Florida who used to be on 3 IV glutathione sessions a week. For a surgeon, you want to, especially if he's your surgeon, you'd want him to stay dialed in, focused, and alert, right? And he wants to be also. So he would be on 3 IV glutathione sessions a week, and he was introduced to this new technology, and he went from $800 a week in glutathione sessions to about $50 a week because of the amount that he's using. Most people would only spend about $50 a month to elevate their intracellular glutathione levels on a daily basis. Remember that half-life thing? You want to continually do it. Unless you're living in a bubble, Fabiola, and you no longer exposed to the environmental chemicals and toxins, the Wi-Fi networks, the water, no more exposure, you would not need to bring your glutathione levels up on a daily basis. But as long as you're living on this planet, the third rock from the sun, I highly recommend some type of daily supplementation.
Yeah, wow, that is so powerful. I am often asked by clients, how long would I need to be on this supplement? Or would I ever stop taking supplements? I said, that only depends on one thing. Are we going to be less toxic? Is the environment going to change fast enough for you to never have to be on some sort of supplementation, in addition to your lifestyle changes and your diet and all that stuff? So that's amazing. And I'm glad that someone figured out how to be able to do that, because we were talking about chronic inflammation. And I think chronic inflammation is through the roof. It's almost everyone I talk to, they have some sort of ache or pain that has been there for a long time. And they see chiropractors, acupuncturists, cranial sacral therapies, and they do the works, right, to try to be in a less state of inflammation. But this sounds like you hit it to the root. Like you go right to where you need to go at a cellular level, in a form that it can be absorbed by the body, utilized by the cells, so that the body, the physiology of the body, because the body is very intelligent, gets the correct message, and then be able to get systems functioning even better. So I love it. Could you share a few case studies, success stories from clients you worked with or any of your practitioners from having using glutathione?
Oh, absolutely. How long do you got?
All day.
There, there's bunches I could tell you. So me personally, I got a really cool story. I'll just tell mine real quick because I always tell people as excited as I am about what happened for me, I get super, super excited at how other people's lives are transforming. So I had an injury in my shoulder. I was carrying you've seen these bed in a box things, right?
Hmm.
I threw one up on my shoulder. I was carrying up a couple flights of stairs. I went one way, the weight shifts, it goes the other. I felt everything rip in my neck and my shoulder and all that. Just the worst discomfort I ever felt. Pain, right? And I went and see a chiropractor. I went and see this all happened in Cocoa Beach, Florida. I went and see a sports therapist friend of mine who was out there. They recommended these lotions, these pills, these powders, these potions. I even had some friends send me these little energy disc, little stickers. They said, put them, just line them up, and that'll help mitigate the pain that you're going through. I tried everything you could imagine, and nothing would work. You imagine a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I don't have no pain at all, 10 being it's so bad I'd want to cut my arm off to get rid of it. It was about a 12 most times. In fact, it would
Wow.
wake me up in the middle of the night out of a dead sleep because I turned and it would just be excruciating. And so I would do what anybody would do to get rid of that. Fortunately, I would take some over the counter stuff. That's happened in 2021. 2022 hits. I get introduced to this new technology, this glutathione breakthrough. And literally within 48 hours of starting it, I got up the second morning, sat on the side of my bed and wept because I slept all night long for the first time in almost a year, and I had almost zero pain. And over the time, I've been able to re-engage in my body weight exercises that I used to do before the injury. I've been able to throw my grandkids back up on my shoulder again, play horseplay with them. I was doing all that before the injury. I really didn't think I'd be able to ever do that again. To me, this technology gave me hope back for the future, right? I've
Yeah.
got friends who were labeled a type 2 diabetic deal. They had issues with their blood sugar. They were seeing a medical professional and monitoring it. And over time of using this particular, and I definitely don't want to say that this supplement will treat, prevent, cure, mitigate any type of disease. It's glutathione. When you provide glutathione, which incidentally, there's over 180 something thousand published studies on PubMed alone. I'm not sure, don't remember if I mentioned that or not. On that one molecule, it's the single most studied molecule in all of human history. The only one that comes in second to it is vitamin C, which has a little bit over 70,000 published studies. So it's
Wow.
pretty important. So it's glutathione that's supporting the body in a way that the body can utilize it so that the cells could do, just like you said, function the way they're supposed to function properly,
Hmm.
right? And so because we're able to get it intracellularly into the bloodstream within 30 minutes, sublingually into the bloodstream within 30 minutes, into the cell within 70, the body's able to, or is better supported and able to begin functioning normally. Long story short, my friend Ed, he's no longer labeled a type 2 diabetic
Wow.
as a result of being on a product. I've got folks, a couple of them that were in stage 4 kidney failure that are no longer labeled in kidney failure. I've seen some really amazing testimonials. Now, people telling me they got fuller heads of hair. They're telling me they're hearing better. They're telling me that they can see better. There's all kinds of dysfunctions that go on with the body when there's, like you called it, chronic or systemic inflammation going on. And if you can begin to mitigate that by supporting the body and reducing the oxidative stress, there's some amazing things that can happen. And I've seen it.
Wow. That's so awesome. And you're right, it's a supplement. We're supplementing, right? But one thing I do want to point out is that you can supplement a bad lifestyle. You can supplement a bad diet, right? You can supplement bad habits because time after time I've seen people, I'm going to take this supplement and my pain is not gone. But they're still eating processed food, right? Or I'm taking this supplement, but I'm still blah, blah, blah. What change have we not done? Do you find it that when people are changing their lifestyle, changing their diet, and then supplementing with glutathione, their results tend to last longer?
100%. In fact, I encourage everyone that utilizes this particular supplementation. I always ask, what are you eating? I find out a little bit about their history. Are you smoking cigarettes? Are you drinking a couple of cans of Coca-Cola a day? These types of things. Because are you eating processed foods? Are you cooking meals out of a box versus some type of whole food? And traditionally, that's just the Western way, right? That's what a lot of people grew up on. It's an education thing, teaching them how to how to eat better. Definitely make sure you stay hydrated because that's a key factor. You got to make sure you stay hydrated daily. And so drink at least half of your body weight in ounces of water is what I try to teach people. And it's so important. Fabiola is so important.
Yeah, and clean water, right? Because cells, from my understanding, they are the purest form of water that there is. And all the stressors that we've been talking about, just the cells have to work harder to go to filter all those things that slows them down. So clean water, and I'm glad you mentioned that because yeah, water. I'm a horrible water drinker. I have to be reminded by my phone or my husband, do you drink your water? Do you drink your water? Because I'm literally one of the worst people when it comes to drinking water. But I do feel it after seeing clients all day long. I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I feel tired. I feel depleted. And well, oh yeah, I wasn't drinking water. Yeah,
Right.
it's important.
One, one,
Yeah.
one way that I help people to remember to drink water, I just have them go to the Environmental Working Group's website, ewg.org. You put your zip code in there, and it'll tell you all the contaminants that are in your municipality's water supply. So when you start
Yeah.
reading all this stuff, you're like, bleh. We teach people to use what's called the Yucca app. There might be a couple of more out there, but the Yucca app,
Yep.
you can scan all the stuff that you're getting in the store, and it'll score it from 0 to 100. And if it doesn't score like really close, 90 out of 100 or better, we stay away from it. So we encourage everyone to do the same thing. It can still
Yeah.
score 60 and the app will say it's good, but there's some borderline chemicals and toxins that's in that food or whatever it is you're scanning. So you just
Yeah.
want to be mindful of those types of things. That's a big source. Like we said, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, right?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that's awesome. So what we've talked about glutathione, the importance of that, and something you mentioned is when people get on the right path, right, of care, then suddenly their diagnoses and different things that they've been dealing with, their body's working better, and then they're through their doctors. There's a shift on diagnoses or medications. If I always tell people, check, obviously, be mindful of what you're taking, know what you're taking, do your research. And that's why we do this type of interview so that people have an idea where to go. Because there are, like you said, there's even, I was just at a store and there was like all kinds of supplements just at the checkout. And I'm like, oh, here, liver support. And I look at it, I'm like, the first five ingredients were, synthetic vitamins. And then I was like, yeah, there's some herbs in there, but we don't know the quality of the herbs. And herbs are very important and, all this stuff. So I really appreciate you breaking it down. And sometimes it's impossible not to be a science geek, right? When it comes to some of the research that's going on. But I think as holistic practitioners, we really dive into it to bring to our clients the best, because many times people come to us as their last resort, or they've been through the ringer. They bring just so many professional after professional and they're not getting anywhere. So I think getting to the root cause of it all, and I love it that you're really helping people be cellular healthy so that they can have a healthy body and the domino effect
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
produces. So I love it. And I love that it's a family business. What you guys are doing for others is just so amazing. Could you tell us a little bit about your other services? I know we spent already a bunch of time talking about glutathione, but tell us a little bit about your other services. What does your practice offer?
So through my association with the Hydrostat nanotechnology and glutathione supplementation, I met a couple of people that introduced me to their terminology was a med bed. And so I dug into that a little bit and learned that it's actually called a quantum energy wellness bed. It's a med bed. And it utilizes biophotonic light. Photon is light, biophotonic energy, far infrared heat, along with sort of looking for frequency stimulation, both audibly and through a titanium plate that covers the top of the bed that you lay on. And so while you're sitting there, this whole combination of modalities that comes together is designed to raise your cellular voltage. And when you get your cellular voltage to a certain level, it's optimum, and there's no disease state that can exist when your cellular voltage is at optimum level. And so the bed actually comes with its own set of frequencies that are designed to target specific organs or health conditions or what have you. But also we learned from a company called Solex about an app that's called an AO scanner. And so we utilize this in our practice along with the bed's frequencies. A client will come in, we create a client profile, we'll record 10 seconds of their voice. I've since learned that our vocal cords store everything that we experience emotionally since birth and even ancestrally when our parents came together to create us. All that stuff passes through and it's all stored in our vocal cords. So when we speak for that 10 seconds in the AO scanner, it's analyzing over 10,000 different frequencies and it identifies the top three that are overstimulated and the main one that's been suppressed over up to this point in your life. And so what it does is it creates balancing tones and frequencies to bring those into homeostasis, to bring them into balance. And so in addition to a particular bed frequency that a client might need for support in an area of their
Mhm.
body, we also play these AO scanner frequencies Bluetooth into the bed at the same time. So they're getting a personalized session of quantum energy healing.
Oh my God. It sounds like we all need a bed like that.
I think so. I believe so. And in addition, Jonathan Glass, Dr. Jonathan Glass, he's practiced Ayurvedic medicine. I met him also through our association with the Hydrostat technology. He's a chiropractor, practices Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine. And he was on a podcast call one Saturday morning, and I was listening to him, and he says that over 98% of all his clients tested for the need of this product. And I'm like, tested? What does he mean, tested? And so I started digging, researching. I found out he's muscle testing them to see if their body can use this product for their case, their individual cases. And this was my first real life experience in muscle testing. I dove deep into it, I learned how muscle testing is performed. And through that, we had a relationship with Dr. Jason Dean and Lisa Palmer out of Lake Mary, Florida, of the Orlando area. And I learned that she had developed a modality that was called quantum nutrition testing. It's where muscle testing meets the quantum field where they come together. And so we went and got certified through her course, level 1 and level 2 certification. And so now we use that along with the quantum energy wellness bed. When I got a client on the bed, we get permission prior to them going to bed, and we will do a quantum nutrition scan while they're on the bed and identify the weak areas in their body and the pressors, and then identify the particular supplementation that'll help with those areas. And then we'll go over
Wow.
that when they get off the bed. So it's a pretty in-depth protocol that we do here. And we also use what's called an AVACEN. AVACEN stands for Advanced Vascular Circulation Enhancement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not big on the FDA. Usually something says FDA approved, I run the other way. This device is cleared for pain management and wound healing. And so when I got a client that comes in prior to the bed session, I'll get their hand on the Avicen. What it does is it puts their hand in a vacuum environment, and the vacuum expands the venules and capillaries in the palm, and the pad that they're resting their hands on is really heated. And so it warms the blood to about 1 degree higher than normal. So when their heart's
Mm-hmm.
pumping, they're pumping higher oxygenated blood throughout all the far reaches of their circulatory system, their fingers, the tips of their toes. It's getting everywhere. And so we're just having great results from all of our clients that are coming in to experience quantum energy wellness.
Wow, that's so awesome. So how does one go about finding your practice? How can people listening to this or watching the video version find you?
Absolutely. Our website is THE Cube, QEWB, stands for Quantum Energy Wellness Bed, thecube.com. You can go to that website, just put in your favorite browser window, hit enter, and check out the website. We'll talk about the Quantum Energy Wellness Bed, what it's designed to do, what it does do. We also talk about the Avicin there. We talk about the NutraSwish, the Hydrostat nanotechnology delivery of glutathione. We talk about, we're actually going to be expanding the website here in the future, and we won't go into that today, but we're just, we're a family, my wife and I, along with our daughter and our daughter's husband, our son and his wife. Together, we brought this technology to Homa, but because of the quantum element involved, we're actually
Mm.
helping people all over the world.
Wow, that's so awesome. That's so great. And for the supplement, the glutathione supplement, can someone just order it from your shop, or how if someone is like live far away, and even though you are able to do quantum nutrition testing with them, if they're like, I'm not near you to do the bed and everything, how would they avail themselves from the supplement?
Yeah, on the same website, click on a little hamburger thing, open up all the tabs. There's one specific for, it's called NutraSwish. You click on that tab, and there's a button you click on that'll bring you to the portal to order the product. I
Great.
highly recommend it because of how effective it is and how affordable it is for most people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Wow. We've covered so much. And Keith, are there any last words of wisdom that you would like to leave our audience with?
You had mentioned during the call that the diet, lifestyle, these all play a huge role. I always encourage people you probably, if you're listening to this in a different state, you're probably not going to come here to lay on my bed, but get outside in the morning. First thing when you wake up, take your shoes off, go ground on Mother Earth for at least 15 minutes. And while you're out there, do some breath work.
Yeah.
Real deep oxygen intake. Get that into your lungs. Do at least 30 respirations, real deep. And while you're walking on Mother Earth out there, and get you some good water. Find a good, whether it's reverse osmosis, if you're going to use a reverse osmosis system, make sure you remineralize it. Find a good mineral salt, which we will have on our website here coming shortly. So get you a good mineral that you can mineralize your water with, or get you, try to think of the name of it. It's escaping me. It's a different way of creating good, clean water. The distiller. I also would highly recommend salt intake. I'm not talking about table salt, NaCl, sodium chloride, the stuff that's bleached and processed. I'm talking about true salt. There's several of them out there. I like the Baja Gold the best. Then there's Celtic sea salt and even Redmond's real salt. Those are all three really good versions of salt that we should be using on a daily basis. So those are some things that I would highly recommend people do, and make sure you're scanning the foods that you're eating, that you're not, even though you're on this end cleaning yourself out and getting better, supplementing and doing all the things. But if on the other end you're putting more toxins into your body, it's just a vicious cycle. Stop the toxic load, get yourself detoxed, and raise your level, raise your cellular voltage, and begin to thrive.
That's awesome. I love it. We are going to make sure to put all your contact information, your website, everything in the show notes, your social media, so that when people are listening to this podcast, watching the video form, they know how to reach you. Keith, I really want to thank you for being here with us today. Everything you shared, I had so many light bulbs go off, and I'm going to have to bring you back so we can talk about your other stuff, because I know we quickly went through it, but I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like we could talk for a whole 45 minutes on that thing.
Good.
So I really appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Fabiola. I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you at the next episode.